Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm your host, Bill Whittle, here for episode number 6422. Good to be back. Good to see everybody, and I hope everybody is doing well. Not too much to report, really, this time. I'm going to try and keep it a little bit shorter so I can get home. Been here a bit today. Uh, in somewhat related news, I went in and, yeah, nice shirt, Bill. It causes epilepsy in people. It's my moo moo shirt because nobody's going out and everybody's gaining all this weight. The Went over to Daily Wire today, recorded a final ad for the Cold War episode, and that's it. It's done. It should be out. Might be out now, or it's out tonight, I think. It's done. I am really very proud of it, and I'd love to hear people's comments on it after you get the last one, because this last episode 13 was supposed to be 10, then I pushed it to 12 and just couldn't do it. Yeah, it was kind of sad finishing it, but it's a good finish, I think, and I'm be real curious to hear people's comments once they see the whole thing. Don't know if or when we're going to do another one. I certainly would like to. I would like to do the Battle of Leyte Gulf next, but we'll see. And we might do one on China too, a history of China, although I don't imagine anybody be interested in that these days. Yeah, it was fun, and the history. We talked about this quite a lot on our members-only Zoom call that we're doing once a week now with Scott, just mention the idea that it's just a fun way to kind of cover history, is just to watch, just lets a whole lots of rivers of time go by and just look for the interesting, human stories and so on. But anyway, it's done. I think my next one will be on history of everything. It'll be 11,422 part episodes, but I'll push it to 15,000. And it'll be finished by my, progeny, which I don't have any of, apparently. Anyway, so it would be, it was fun. It was good to get finished. It was kind of sad to get finished, too, to be honest with you. I really had a good time working on that. Although it was a mountain of work. It's been almost a year since I've been able to go home and say, I don't have to write anything, or at least I should be writing something right now. So that, and then let's see, anything else? I don't know what's happening for you guys. It's obviously a moment in time, and also geographically, but I just see more and more people every day in our parking lot. When this whole shutdown thing started, it's so weird. It's been, 6 weeks now, something like that, maybe more, less, somewhere around there. And it was, there were nothing, there were nobody, no cars here, nothing. And then after a couple of weeks, you started to see more. Now that we came in, Natasha and I came in earlier today, and the whole top floor was just jammed. It seems like that's how this whole thing is just going to happen. I think people voluntarily agreed to go along with this, and now I think they're going to kind of voluntarily agree to not go along with it. I just think it's just like, people are just saying, I just admire it. I like the way it's being handled. I do. I just like the fact that people are basically making their own decisions, and they seem to be doing a pretty good job of weighing the risks. So right now, we will see. Otherwise, I guess there's not much to do except for to jump into these questiones that people have had. And if you didn't get the message on Facebook yesterday, I'm very sorry that I did not post it several days ago. I'm going to do Chronosphere Lounges by announcement now. It's not going to be every day. I should have said this a week ago. I apologize very much for that. But I hope and expect to do one tomorrow. And if anything big happens, we'll do one that day on the notice. It's like the whole front of this bell curve. It was just so much stuff happening every day that was interesting. And then really once the cases started declining after that, it really just sort of, I don't know, just kind of nothing new, I guess. So anyway, hopefully I certainly have a few things to talk about for tomorrow, is my hope. So let's go to our Facebook page, shall we? And let's see what the gang has to say. No comments from Brian Stetler yet, apparently. Although the comment section does look kind of soggy. So maybe he was just here visiting. Who knows? What I want to do here real quick. Oh, Billy, you silly, silly boy. What am I doing here? Sorry. Hang on. We have, by the way, if you are one of the people who are booked on the Strata Cruise, we have got a new date for the Strata Cruise, which will be December 4th out of Miami. And that's great. It's just great. Hopefully, people who were not able to make it before will be able to make it now. That would make all of us just so very happy. And we sent out an email about that. I just wrote it earlier today, and presumably you've heard from the travel agency. But anyway, that would be just grand. Yeah, we're not canceling this thing. We're going, by God. So hopefully, people who were not able to go before will be able to go. And people who live in the Great White North will look at it and say, there you go. Let's see. All right, well, we'll start with Eric Blake here, although I don't know if I have much I can say about this one. A few weeks ago, Ben Shapiro had on his Sunday show none other than Jason Blum, head of the now legendary mini studio of Blumhouse, which makes lower budget films that look high budget. You may remember I once pointed to Blumhouse as the perfect studio for Aurora, Big Bad Problems, Common Sense, Resistance, etc. While Blum specifically noted to Ben that young conservative creatives who would love to work in Hollywood but are afraid of being blacklisted should go to him and they'd be hired on the spot. In other words, allow me to propose once again, bring your scripts to Blumhouse. Interesting. Here's a video of the interview if you haven't seen it, and he's got a clip of the interview, so that's good advice. I think I will have a couple things I'd like to talk to Jason Blum about. So I don't know anything about him, Eric. I remember you mentioned him, but I have a strong feeling that I should give my buddy Jeremy a call and find out how to get in contact with this guy. Thanks for that. Hopefully something good will come out of it. We will see. I certainly have a couple of things to pitch to him. Next question is from here's a new name, Eric Blake, for a change. So Bernie dropped out somewhat, and for heaven knows what reason, Tulsi Gabbard dropped out after staying in for so long for great reasons, as you discussed on a previous episode. So here's an idea I want to bounce off your head. It'll bounce a long way. There's a lot of density in up there. What if Trump offered to appoint Tulsi to a position in his administration? Would it be a genius move on his part, encouraging moderates like her and supporters to leave the Democratic Party? And B, do you think Tulsi would accept his offer? Why or why not? I think it'd be, first of all, a bad idea because Tulsi is basically the least communist of the bunch, and secondly, I don't think there's any way she would accept it. If she accepted it, she would be banished from the Democratic Party, and she's got nowhere else to go. It's just doesn't. I just don't see any way that would make any sense, Eric. The only thing I liked about Tulsi was that she was willing to, hey, Olamir, how are you? Is that she was willing to, take on some of the other people. And other than that, I just don't think much of anybody on that field, and I certainly don't think Trump needs her. I don't see any reason to appoint any liberals at this point to any positions. And as I said, she wouldn't take the job anyway. It'd be the end of her political career if it's not over already. So moving on, Charles Tome. So an ultra-liberal close acquaintance wanted advice on firearms. It's funny how that works, isn't it? Is responsible firearms ownership the gateway drug to full-blown conservative, libertarian, individual responsibility, small government philosophy, or are they all irredeemable red electrodes? No, Charles, you have got the golden opportunity here. I can't tell you how many liberals I've seen or heard of first-person anecdotal stories of people, huge liberals that go out to the gun range and they're converted on the spot. A lot of it is just kind of the kick of firing a gun. It's just kind of cool, and a lot of people react well to that. But I actually think that the deeper reason that I've seen so many people converted on gun ranges is because they get to meet conservatives, and the entire experience is nothing like what they expect it's going to be. They really do think it's just going to be a bunch of, I'm not joking, seriously, they really do think it's going to be a bunch of beer swilling, rednecks out there just shooting, a full automatic off into the sky and blowing away pigeons and all the rest of this stuff. My experience has been that when they see how much discipline there is on your typical gun range, how much care and responsibility that virtually every conservative I've ever met treats it with, then it forces them to realize that their entire image of us is just fiction. I really think, I really don't know what else is more effective, honestly, than getting them to a gun range. And then you get a chance to, you don't have to lecture them or anything, but once you get them out there, they're afraid of guns because they don't understand them. They know that conservatives like guns, and they think it's because, well, we know why they think that we like them. But if the current situation has caused people to want to ammo up, and it turns out that this virus, they love it, isn't it? It's kind of cool. The greatest gun salesman in all of history was Barack Obama, the most communist president we ever had. But he's been, apparently he's been usurped. Now the Communist Party of China is the greatest gun salesperson in the history of the world, salespeople. Apparently there are more guns selling now after this COVID breakout than there were during the peak of the Obama years. But what happens is that, and I've heard this story so many times from conservatives who've lived out here. I was here for the Rodney King riots, but I've known conservatives been out here for a long time. I've said this many times. They all of their liberal friends just mock them and not just mock them, insult them, how you're racist and violence. And I thought you were a smart guy. How come you like guns? All this other stuff. You've heard it 1,000 times. And then something happens, like riots, and then they call and say, "Hey, do you have a piece I can borrow just for a couple weeks until this blows over?" So it's kind of like every now and then reality intrudes and rears its ugly head, and then they're forced to look into different things because self-preservation is basically their only real core belief system. But then you get them out there, and they see what it's all about. But mostly they see the kind of people, and I've never ever heard of a liberal who went to a gun range and came out more anti-conservative than when they went in. But I've heard of a lot of people who really, really broke the mold and got them thinking about things and realizing, well, if I was wrong about this and everything I was told about these guys on the gun range is wrong, then maybe the other stuff's wrong too. Where did it go? It was a great little question. It was from Edward Smith. Does shooting at metal targets make it more fun than paper targets? It absolutely does, in my opinion. There's nothing like pong ting, pong ting. That's the greatest sound in the world. You really can't, if you're really working on improving your aim or precision, paper target's undoubtedly a better way to go. But for the sheer kick of it, the steel targets are the best. And if you can find a gun range where there are steel targets that you can actually knock over, and Oak Tree's got those, a little pneumatic thing pumps them back up again. when you pull that trigger and something goes tink and it just goes falls over, it's a great feeling. I went out to a private range 2-3 years ago with a friend of mine who's in SEAL, active duty SEAL, and we're trying to dial in the scope on my AR-15, and I made some decent shots, I guess, with that. But with the pistol, the 45 automatic, and it's a tough pistol to aim. But the good news is you don't have to really aim the 45. All you have to do is basically point it in the same cardinal direction as the person you want to impress. In other words, if they're north of you, just shooting towards the north is probably going to be enough. It's just such an intimidating weapon. But this guy had never shot that gun before, and I said, "Can I take a look?" And I said, "Sure." And I just gave it to him, and he just started walking sideways, and just, I think with his left hand, just went tink, 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 tink. I didn't think it was possible to be that good. I didn't think it was possible to be that precise, but it is. These special shooters, these guys that do trick shooting, throw, a handful of, whatever in the air and just blow them up from the hip. It's amazing to me. But I guess if you do something 100,000 times, sooner or later you're going to get the hang of it. I'm in awe of it, but then again, I'm in awe of the people at Cirque du Soleil as well. And I suppose that if I dedicated my entire life to doing that, then I probably could uncurl myself from a velvet rope from the ceiling as well. But nevertheless, I highly recommend it, Charles. I think it's a great idea, and I think you'll do a great job of winning some converts there. Steve Young, I haven't heard any coverage of the United Nations since Nikki left. They ain't got game. No, they don't got game, do they? None of it's got game. The United Nations has been absolutely absent in this crisis. The World Health Organization is utterly discredited. By the way, I knew the World Health Organization was criminal something like 3 days into the real start of the uptick. I know the WHO is part of the United Nations, but I mean the United Nations as a body, as the United Nations, just invisible. You would think that an international pandemic would cause the United Nations to swing into action as the United Nations, of which WHO is a subset and all the others and so on. But nothing. And they're just a joke. And I remember when WHO put out the first map of infections, it listed Israel as occupied Palestinian territory. Okay, all right. This is where vaccines may very likely come from, but you want to go ahead and show everybody just how politically left-wing you are, no matter what you think of the state of Israel. To just say, no, this is occupied Palestine. This goes out on like an official document of the World Health Organization. Forget about it. Forget it. Let's see. They're just gone, Steve. And good riddance. I think it's just time to end the whole charade. You can have it in the United Nations, just can't have it here. Why don't you have it in Beijing? Wouldn't that be great? Or even better, why not have it in Abu Dhabi or Mexico City or something like that? I think half the reason that the UN exists is because a lot of people from around the world want to go and live in New York for free for 20 years. But anyway, that's that. Martin Archer wants to know what my favorite place to get a burger in LA is. Five Guys. It's very good. In fact, damn you, Martin Archer. Damn you to hell. We're just chewing them up today, aren't we? Ian McLaren. But there's no point in elaborating on something I can give you a one-word answer with. In-N-Out's not bad. Ian McLaren, favorite board game? Have I played Risk? Not only have I played Risk, Ian, I've mastered Risk. I'm a Risk grandmaster. And it's a great game. Axis and Allies is a really fun game. I really probably enjoyed that even more than Risk, but I'd say certainly Risk would be the number one board game. Get my arm twisted into playing Monopoly, I don't know, 10 years ago. It was a lot more fun than I remembered it. But yeah, I'm going to have to go with Risk. When I was little, I used to like Snakes and Ladders a lot, which I think they maybe call Shoots and Ladders here. Now there's a game that is a deeply intellectual exercise. There is no skill in it at all, none, absolutely none. It's just simple dice rolling. You know, up you go up the ladder, you go up three, you know, you fall, slide down the snake. When I was a kid, I used to just love that game. Thought it was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I've never been a big board gamer. My friend Fritz created a really popular board game called Liftoff. It's a space race game, and he's told me about this big board game renaissance where, you know, now people like pay to watch other guys playing Dungeons and Dragons, which is not technically a board game really, but nevertheless is a board-like game. So yeah, I'm going to have to go with Risk on that one. And by the way, there's a variant of Risk. It may even be the official rules, although I don't think it is, where you every time you get a territory, you conquer territory, you get a card, so you always want to be attacking at least something. And you can play where the cards are either worth 10 or 5, depending on whether they're 3 of a kind or 1 of each kind. But there's a variation on those rules where it starts at like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and the numbers just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Don't play that version ever. Ever. It's just when you've completely got the guy. He's down to 2 territories. The entire board is blue, let's say, and he's green. The whole board is blue and he's green. If you play by the escalating card rule, he turns in his cards, and now all of a sudden he gets 80 armies or something like that, and it's just like, oh, for the love of God, no. And somebody said, what is the strategy? The strategy, I'm not going to give you all the details because I may have to face you someday. But it is marshal all your forces and take Australia at any cost. Yep, just as I said it, John Galt popped up the answer right at the exact same time. Take Australia at any cost. And if it turns out you lose taking Australia, then just it's that valuable. Take Australia. Don't garrison your troops in Australia. Garrison them in whatever's closest. Maybe it's Indonesia. I don't really remember. That way you break up the Asia color group. And it gives you opportunities just attack and retreat, attack and retreat, attack and retreat, attack and retreat, and just get the cards. You get 2 get 2 armies for every time you hold Australia, and there's nothing in there, so there's no incentive for anybody. If you can take Australia quickly enough and build up enough of a fortification, there's no incentive for any of the other players to go in there and take you out because it will cost them so much that it will then take them out. And then you just sit there and sit there and sit there and watch everybody else just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and you build up your forces and you just wait and wait and wait. And then you make lightning offenses there comes a time when you got to get out of Australia. And if you've got the armies, then after Australia, you do the 3-point North American defense in Alaska. What is it? Iceland, I want to say, not Greenland. Break up the European color group, and then south of Panama, so that you break up the South American color group. And if you really got your game going, the end game always looks like you got troops, massive troops in Alaska. You've got them in Iceland, and you've got them in Brazil, or whatever. So now you got the entire Western Hemisphere, and you defend it from 3 points. And you just collect your armies and your cards and just launch these overwhelming raids. But I never attack unless I'm really confident that I can win. And that's a great thing about a Risk is, since it is based on chance, there are times when you have absolutely overwhelming odds either in your favor or against you, and you'll start this campaign. You just say, I should have plenty of troops in order to just take out this entire color group, and it's like, Nope, you just keep throwing junk and they keep knocking you down. I've had big invasions fail that way, and more often I've had like desperate last stand defenses. That's an amazing thing when the guys just come in to roll you out of the game, and it's just like you're just putting up huge defense. Axis and Allies is better for that, actually. Axis and Allies can really be fun if a guy's put all his money into bombers or whatever, and you put him into anti-aircraft guns, and he's just flying over, and you just like shooting him down. I did that once with some friends of mine. I think I rolled double sixes. I think I rolled them 4 or 5 times in a row, which is exceedingly unlikely, but yeah, I did. But then again, I've rolled a lot of dice in my day. Let's see what else. Moving on. Mike Maserati. Bill, I'm getting killed for this. He really did say it. Trump suggests injecting disinfectant to treat coronavirus. Thoughts? I can't just throw this down as him rambling on. P.S. Did you see a plane land on Highway 5, Quebec? Let me see this. This I have to see. Hang on. Oh, for the love of God, this is so easy. What if, let me just read the quote again. This is the most deceptive headline I have seen in the entire. I can't believe that the question said I'm getting killed on this. Trump really said it. Let me just see if I missed something here. Sorry to keep you waiting, but this just seems incredible. All right. So here's the question. Mike Massetti says, Bill, I'm getting killed for this. He really did say it. Trump suggests injecting disinfectant to treat coronavirus. Let's see what the president said I'm reading the transcript here at the link. Here's the headline. Trump suggests injecting disinfectant to treat coronavirus and touts power of sunlight to beat disease. What did he say? He said, I see the disinfectant that knocks it out in 1 minute, like, for instance, bleach, for example. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? The president said during his daily COVID-19 briefing. He didn't say inject yourself with disinfectant. He said, is there a way to do something internally like what disinfectant does externally? What is... This is criminal headline. It is a criminal headline. Trump suggests injecting disinfectant. He didn't suggest injecting disinfectant. He asked if it's possible to do something like what disinfectant does on the outside, which is a pretty sound idea. And then furthermore, he says that ultraviolet light and solar light, sunlight, kills the virus. It does. It does kill the virus. Ultraviolet light kills all viruses. He's not suggesting that you should just simply sit out there and let the sun do the work. He's saying that ultraviolet light kills viruses because it does. And sunlight kills viruses because it does. And this kind of thing is I thought, okay, what did he really say something, that's stupid? No, he didn't. He did not say something that's stupid. And to take that interpretation of it is just plain ridiculous. That's like me saying Wow, I saw a guy cleaning out the drain. He used like a rotor rooter thing, you know. He used like this plumber snake, and he bored out this giant, you know, clog in this drain. Is there any way you could do something like that inside the human heart? And then it would say Bill Whittle recommends using sewage rotor to cure arterial blockage. What do you say about this? What do you say about this? That is suggesting injecting, Trump suggests injecting disinfectant to treat coronavirus and touts the power of sunlight to beat the disease. That is the most deceptive, ridiculous. I want to see what the comments. I'm wondering if anybody in the comments picked this up. I bet you not. Let's see. Where are the? Are no. Come on. God, this kind of thing drives me out of my absolute mind. Let's see it again. He goes on to say, apparently, the crazy, nutty, wacky, just plain anti-scientific idea that the summer months are likely to reduce the COVID-19 infections. On account of it does. On account of it does. You know, flu goes down in the summer. Maybe maybe they're just unaware of that, or that must be some of the anti-scientific mumbo jumbo that Trump is. Next thing you know, Trump will be saying that people get flu more often in the winter than they do in the summer. So here's what he says. He goes on to say, you see, it gets in, he's talking about this idea of an internal disinfectant. You see, it gets in the lungs and does a tremendous number on the lungs, so it would be interesting to check that, he said, appearing to refer to the disinfectant idea. We're going to have to use medical doctors, but it seems interesting to me. Well, guess what? Hydroxychloroquine is essentially on some level doing something like that. It's not actually killing the virus, but it's slowing it down. Any chemical treatment that tries to kill viruses that's not an immune system response is essentially disinfectant for the inside of your body. And this is simply, I just want to scream when I see these kind of things. And this is why you always have to go back to the source. You know, you have to go to the source. Somebody sends you a link, and sure enough, if you go to the link, what do you see? Well, you see a link here, and the link says, Trump suggests injecting disinfectant to treat coronavirus and touts power of sunlight to beat the disease. Okay, that would be a silly thing to say. Is that what he said? No, it's not what he said. It is not what he said. What he said is disinfectant kills the virus like that. Is there a way to do that inside? I didn't listen to the video because I can't, but right now I'm reading the direct transcript here, and that's what he says. So I am just, I really should be his press secretary, honestly, because I wouldn't just defeat these arguments. I would turn them around and destroy the people asking them and call them out on their just plain lying duplicity. Just plain lying duplicity. I'm trying to think of a like an example. The rotor-rooter example is not a terrible one, but anyway. All right. Miserable, horrible, low-life swine. I hate them. I am telling you that if Western civilization falls, it will be because of the sound of somebody speaking on the BBC with that Tony, posh, toffee-nosed, received pronunciation accent. That will be the end of the universe as far as I'm concerned. Okay. So if you're getting killed for this, Mike, you may want to look up and confirm it on the video. I wasn't able to. I'm just reading the direct quote that was in the article that showed the video. So if I were you, what I would do is I would read that, and then I would go to the people who are killing you with it, and then read this back to them, and then ask them if that sounds like the same thing to you. He's talking about, would there be a way to find something that acted like an internal disinfectant? That's very different than saying go out and inject disinfectant. It's what they're trying to do is they're trying to, in fact, this is actually much worse than this. I realize now this is much worse than this. They're trying to basically get people to do this, like that idiots with the aquarium cleaner. They're trying to get people to do it so that they'll die, so that they can try and pin this on them too. I cannot stand these miserable low-life bastards. I just despise them. I despise them. I double check the clip, read it back to your friends, and then say something like, hey, I'm just curious. Arteries have been known to collapse. They get so filled with plaque and stuff. I'm wondering if there's any way if you could take something that was kind of like a party balloon and put it into the aorta and then inflate the balloon and then sort of open the arteries up a little bit and just kind of maybe scrape some stuff off that way. And then the next thing you see is Trump advises swallowing party balloons to prevent heart attacks. Okay, all right. Yes, angioplasty is what it's called. It works. And it works just the way I described. And it's an effective way to treat heart problems. It has done an awful lot to eliminate things like bypass operations, but they would say Donald Trump advises heart attack patients to swallow as many party balloons as possible. Okay. Dave wants to know if I've seen The Mandalorian, and Dave, I haven't, and I hate to I feel like I'm blowing through these questions, but I haven't, and I really can't comment on it. I mean, I know a little bit about it from the outside, but I haven't seen it, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to skip that one. Leonardo Mad says, what kind of advice would you give to a guy going through post-divorce depression? Wow. Well, I've never gone through post-divorce depression, Leonardo, and I don't expect I will. I certainly can't imagine it, but I have dealt with extreme severe depression before, so maybe I can help you with that. It sounds so simple, really, and I believe there's a biological reason for this. The first thing I would do if I were you is I'd get outside, assuming you don't get gunned down by the state police. I mean, I would just get outside. I don't know if there's anything that's any large open place. Just first thing is just get outside and take a walk. That's an immediate piece of advice. I would do that now, and then come back, watch the rest of the show on YouTube. I would go out and get some air and some walk and some exercise. Part of it is, Leonardo, the best advice I can give you, man, is just whatever you find enjoyable, playing video games, fishing, whatever you enjoy doing, go do that. And hang out with some friends if you've got them, because your friends will not only help cheer you up, they'll make an exercise out of cheering you up. But whatever it is, and video games is not a good example because you really need to get outside. And if you have any people who are friends or old friends or whatever, go drive out and visit them, anything. The main thing you have to do right now is you have to break this cycle of just sitting in the house and thinking about nothing else. That's the number one problem right now. That's number one. Number two, you've got to this is a subtle difference, okay, distinction. So you got to listen carefully on this one because I don't want you to misunderstand me. I'm not I'm not saying you should feel like, oh, I feel better. You should just understand you should understand that the day is going to come when you do feel better and that this is not going to last forever. That's actually the best advice I could ever give to somebody who's really going through really, really rough depression. Is I'm not saying, hey, cheer up. I'm not saying that's gonna. I'm not saying, hey, you should just stop hurting. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying just keep in mind that the day will come when it will not hurt so much, and then the day will come when it won't hurt at all, except as a memory of, like, a loved one that died or a pet or something like that. It'll be a kind of a occasionally will come to mind, and maybe it'll bring back a kind of a bittersweet memory or a sad memory or whatever the case may be. But just the problem with genuine despair is that you feel like you never are going to get out of it. You feel like you're just in this hole and there's no way out of it and it's never going to change. And so, therefore, what's the point? And that is the only part of depression that I think you can overcome with your mind. You can't think yourself into feeling better. And I've been told to do that by dozens, scores of people who don't know anything about clinical depression, serious depression. Just cheer up. If I could just cheer up, I would. That's like saying to alcoholics, "Would just stop drinking so much, or stop gambling." But here's the thing, man. I'm not saying you can just think your way into feeling better now. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, don't lose track of the fact intellectually. Don't lose track of the fact that while you're in absolute misery right now, you will not be in this misery forever. It is going to get better, and I don't know how long it's been, but it's going to get better. And then the reason you want to go outside is because the problem with this kind of a depression is that you just keep reliving the same script. It's not even like Groundhog Day. It's like, you know what it's like. At least it's what it seems like to me. Right now, Leonardo, you've been locked in a movie theater, and they're playing the same film, and it's about the same length of time. It's about an hour and a half, and you're stuck in a movie theater, and they're playing the same movie again and 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 again, and it doesn't change, and you can't get out. You're stuck here, and you're listening to the same thing again, and you run it again, and you keep thinking, oh, if I did this differently, if I'd done that differently, why didn't she do this? Why didn't I do that? And it's the same movie on the screen, and it just goes around and around and around and around and around and around and around. And the only way to get out of that is to get the F out of the theater. Just get out of the theater. It doesn't matter where you go. Just get out of that theater. Kick the door down and just go do something else. Because once you get out of the theater, you'll at least get a chance to get a little bit of perspective on it, and that's a way to make it hurt a lot less quickly. In fact, if you're really looking for like the quickest relief, then that's probably the best thing you can do is just get out of the house, hang out with friends if you've got friends that you can hang out with, and then just don't stay in the same movie theater watching the same movie again and again and again and again and again. There's something about human nature that in a weird sort of way, it's almost like the mirror image of worrying. Worrying is obsessing about the future, trying to predict what you're going to do in order to avoid, pain in the future. You worry too much, you become neurotic, and you can become hypochondriac, and you can become just plain neurotic. You're just paralyzed if you spend so much time thinking about the future, trying to prepare yourself for what's coming. And the inverse of this is to spend so much time in the past trying to rerun things that you did or didn't do, and and expecting that somehow that's going to come out different. You can't change either one of them. You can be prepared for the future to some degree, but you can't predict it. And 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 worrying about it just makes you sick. I'll give you a good example. If let's say that a guy was a airline pilot, and let's say that every time he went to work, his wife was convinced that he's going to die in an airplane, that the plane's going to crash and he's going to die. She's utterly convinced of it. And every time he goes to work, it's torture for her. And while he's gone, she's just tortured. And she doesn't feel good until he's back home and the plane has landed. Then she can relax until the next time he has to go out of the house. So she's doing this because she fears losing her husband and fears losing him in a plane crash. And she's doing it expecting him to die in order to buffer herself. She's trying to buffer the shock of hearing it. She doesn't want it to come out of the blue because it's going to be so destructive that she's buffering it by living it. Like it's like simulating it. That's kind of what she's doing, whether she realizes it or not. She's kind of like simulating the news as a way of her thinking that this is somehow going to make it more bearable if I know it's coming, and I do know it's coming. But the point is this: if this woman emotionally feels that every single day that her husband goes to work, he's going to die, then it's the essential equivalent of him dying every single day. It's not any really different for her than the fact that he actually did die. So if she does this for 10 years, that's 3,600 days where her husband died every single day, and it doesn't do anything to ameliorate the fact that, number one, he may not die doing this at all, or if that day comes, then you've got one bad day instead of 3,000 virtually bad days. Don't live in either one of. Don't live. There are people who always say, "Oh, live for the moment." It's like I was never able to do that. I can't live for the moment. I don't know how to do that. But living in the future is a lot more. Is a lot less damning than living in the past. At least living in the future, as long as it's not all worry, if you live in the future, you can do something about the future. If you decide to do it instead of just dream about it, you can do something about it in the future. But the past is immutable and unchangeable. And you can't you can't do anything about it. And you also need to understand, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, I guess, is that there is I don't know how much of it is a gene, meaning not related to different races or anything, but just built into humans. I'm sure there's some genetic component about self-criticism. Self-criticism allows you to get better at things, and people who have no sense of self-criticism are the people that you see on those American Idol auditions who simply can't hold a note and never could, and think that they're great singers. Those people have zero self-evaluation and self-criticism. And the better you are at something, usually the harder you are on yourself about things. You want to improve them and make them better. But that process of self-improvement through self-criticism has kind of there's like an appendix, the organ attached to it. There's like a vestigial kind of thing that does no good at all. And that is what I think causes people to just relive the past as if they could change it. And it's a way to beat yourself up and a way to punish yourself, which is on a limited scale, a very limited scale, a way to beat yourself up. I beat myself up if I make a mistake in a fact on a firewall, if I don't like the way something looks, and it just bothers me forever. But I don't let it destroy my life, and I don't let it stop me from writing. the 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 ease that people beat themselves up with is amazing. I don't think any, you know, I personally have never found any comfort in kind of these affirmations kind of thing. Um, but I do find that that one realization about any situation, any divorce, is it takes two to tango, brother. You know, there's nobody in a relationship that is 100% responsible for the outcome of that relationship. Um, it's just it's just not true. Uh, you cannot be to whatever degree you may feel like you're responsible for this thing hitting the rocks. I'm sure she made a very compelling case, and maybe her lawyer did too, and maybe you think so, and maybe it's true. You know, maybe you were a complete jerk and chased away this person who was just wonderful. But I'm telling you, a lot of that is a sense of reliving history in such a way. Think of it this way: if you look at your divorce as a story, and it is, and all we do is tell stories. I've told a lot of stories about a lot of things. It's all I do on this show, really, is just tell stories, personal stories, and things like that. And I don't lie about those stories, and I never invent them, and I never say anything that's not true. But I do turn up the contrast. I I I, I tighten them up. I buff them. I polish them. And and that's what you're doing right now. I see it got in the comment section is responding kind of live, you know, and I'm assuming since you typed it that it's for public consumption. So, you know, you're saying I'm a complete jerk and I chase people away. Actually, if that's kind of the space where you are right now, buddy, then you probably should just give yourself a good slap on the face. Just stop doing that. I just stop. Nobody's a complete jerk, and nobody nobody's unlovable, and nobody's a complete jerk, and nobody that attitude is is a form of self-flagellation, and that's the really, I guess they're really down to the brass tacks now, buddy. Since you asked me, I'll tell you. When I was you know, getting treatment for this depression and stuff, this therapist said to me, she said, "Well, you know, why do you like being depressed so much?" And I said, I just really outraged. "Why are you such a masochist?" Me? Are you kidding me? I can't stand it. I hate it. That's why I'm here. I said, well, your entire history, which you've told me, is a history of you being miserable. So, what is about being miserable that you like so much that you go looking for it? And that's when I really had to face the facts. There's a lot of brutal truth in places like Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous where they simply confront you with inescapable truths. And one of them is, you know, in a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, if you're arguing that you really don't have a problem, people won't argue with you. They'll say, "Well, if your life is so great, why are you here? Why don't you go back out there?" So, look, you just wrote, "I'm 41 and I accept what I've become." Pal, I didn't even start my life until I was 47. I started writing Bill Whittle now. I mean, eject, eject, eject. I was 43 or 44 when I started. I just turned 61. My life didn't begin until I met my wife, which is coming up on 4 years ago. I never knew I could be this happy. And if I could have had a chance to have all of this at 41 instead of 58, I would have leapt on it. So, I'll tell you what I can't do, and that no one can do, and that is I can't make you want to get better. That's probably the best advice I can give you. I can certainly give you advice on how to deal with depression, and I can give you advice on a bunch of things like that because I've been through it. But I can't make you want to get better. If you're decided that you're going to make yourself miserable, then that's what you're going to do, and there's nothing that anybody can do about it. And it's going to end when you decide to stop doing it. There is That was the great lesson, really, of all the time I spent and all the people I met. I met people who I just adored. I met people who I thought I had enormous respect for in Narcotics Anonymous and in therapy and all the rest of it. By the way, I never had a narcotics problem. I just had an addictive personality problem. If I'd had a narcotics problem, I would tell you. But anyway, one thing we learned about that was that no matter how far people were when they came in, how deep their bottom was. If you're in a meeting, if you're in an AA meeting or an NA meeting or a Gamblers Anonymous meeting, or if you're in a therapist's office, whatever the case may be, if that happens, then you have reached a point where you decided to do something about it. That's basically called the bottom. And some people hit bottom when they realize they're not happy, and other people hit bottom when they find themselves under a bridge with a heroin needle sticking out of their arm. Depends on the individual. But when you decide to get actual help, that's the point when your life starts to turn around. But the thing I've learned about being around people like this my whole life, Leonardo, is that there is nothing you can do, meaning other people. There's nothing anyone can do if you decide that you want to be miserable. That's it. If you want to be miserable, then there's nothing people can do. There's nothing I can do. There's no advice I can give you because you won't listen to it, because you don't want to listen to it. And this is the hard part to face. I'm not bashing you, man. I'm just telling you. For me, it's the hardest part of all. Is just facing the reality of it. I didn't feel better because I didn't want to. I was comfortable with this. How can that be? You have no idea what I'm going through. No, I know exactly what you're going through. And what I'm saying is there is a a difference between happiness and comfort. And people will usually go for comfort over happiness. In other words, people who've been unhappy most of their lives are comfortable being unhappy. It doesn't mean they like it, but they know it, and that's where they'll go. They'll go back to what's comfortable. Probably not comfortable is really the familiar is probably a better word. So, if you're determined to be miserable about it, I'm not going to accuse you of being a pity pot or anything. I've been there. I've done it before. I know what it's like. I know exactly what it's like. But the unpleasant news that I have for you, since you asked, is you're not going to start feeling better until you make a decision to feel better. And if you make a decision to feel better, then you'll start doing some of the things I suggested. You'll maybe go seek therapy, or if you have any personally, if it were me advising my younger self again, I would just go to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. And even if you're not an alcoholic, I would go. And the reason I would recommend something that crazy is because even though I wasn't an alcoholic or a drug user, I had to go to these meetings every day because I was just in such bad shape that it was like emergency room treatment. I just had to, you had to stop the bleeding before you could recover and make the patient better. You got to stop the bleeding. And, okay. He says, I'm content. Well, you don't sound content. Leonardo, you don't sound content to me. I suspect you're not content at all. And to say I'm content is a defense mechanism. And that defense mechanism is blocking you from getting out of this mess. So, listen, man, I'm on your side. I've been there, and I'm not making any judgments because I've been exactly there. I'd go for a walk. I'd go walk your dog if I were you right now, and then I would ask yourself, if you decided, I would ask yourself during that walk. Maybe you'd ask your dog. I'm not joking about this either. You might want to ask your dog. I'm not kidding. Maybe you want to ask your dog if you think that you should be happier or have a chance to be happier. Look, man, if you have a dog, then and you and your dog get along, then there's something lovable about you. Dogs are very good, very, very good judges of personality. If you've got a dog and you and your dog get along well, then the dog sees something in you that you don't see. Go for a walk with the dog. Ask the dog if you think if ask the dog if the dog thinks you should be miserable. I'm not kidding. I'm not being flip at all. I'm as serious as I can be. That's what I would do. I go for a walk with my dog, and then I just talk to my dog. I talk to my cats all the time. My wife is constantly saying, "You talking to me?" Sorry, no, I was talking to Pismo. I was talking to Bean. I was talking to my cats. I was talking to them because I spent virtually my entire life alone before I met my wife, and one of the ways I survived was by talking to my cats all the time, and answering for them too. That's the scary part. Yeah, go for a walk. Talk to your dog. Ask your dog if your dog thinks that you should be miserable for the rest of your life. Ask your dog's opinion about whether you're a worthless human being or not. Because I suspect your dog is going to say no. I suspect your dog is going to say, yeah, your dog is full of unconditional love. Okay, well, but it's not, man. See, here's the thing. It's not unconditional love. This is the thing you need to understand. Your dog doesn't love you unconditionally. No. If you kicked the dog in the teeth every time you woke up and did nothing but kick the dog wouldn't love you anymore. The dog loves you because of the way you treat the dog. And if you treat the dog well enough for the dog to love you, then that means there's something lovable about you. So you can stop this whole kind of, oh, there's nothing, I don't know. No, just put it away, man. It's like your dog loves you. They see something in you. And dogs don't love you unconditionally. It's because I have the treats. Really? Really? Okay, this is the last I'm going to say about this. I can't, and no one else can help you right now because right now you are enjoying flagellating yourself. If you really think that the reason your dog loves you is because you have dog treats, then go ahead and continue to whip yourself until you feel better. That's all I can tell you. There's nothing else I can add to that. Just keep whipping yourself till you feel better. And then when you've done that, then you can start dealing with this realistically. And your dog doesn't love you because you have dog treats. If you were to leave your house and go out on the street, your dog would come with you. And if you offered the dog some scraps of a ham sandwich that somebody left you, he'd eat it and he would stay with you. Dog wouldn't leave you for somebody else who has dog treats. That's just not how it works, and you know it. So I hope later you'll be able to kind of go back and listen to this and listen to the recording. But if right now, if that's what you're determined to do, then go for it, man. If you want to tell yourself that the only reason your dog loves you is because you have dog treats, then knock yourself out. Knock yourself out. Get it out of your system. But hopefully you'll come back to this segment of the show later. Hi, how are you? We're all right. Thanks very much. Have a good night. Hopefully you'll come back to the show a little later when you get it out of your system, and then you can hopefully listen to it again and get a little more out of it. I understand where you are. I've done it for most of my life. I mean, really, I have. I remember one time in the planetarium days. I was probably 19 or 20. I was what was I doing? Was I parking my car? Yeah, I was parking my car, and I hit the little, the little concrete thing on the ground to stop you from. But it hit it hard enough to kind of jump up on it a little bit, and I remember saying, "God damn it, you fucking idiot! What the hell is the matter?" Well, more than that, just tirade, just God damn idiot! It's like. And then just at the beginning of just like, the slow multi-decade process of getting better. I remember just saying, oh, who are you talking to, man? Who are you talking to? You wouldn't talk to anybody that way. What is this catastrophe? Did you somehow, forget to deactivate the nuclear weapon that took out the entire city? Or did you just accidentally thinking about something else on the radio and accidentally bumped up against a parking thing? I mean, what's going on, man? That was just, I just enjoyed being miserable. I didn't enjoy it. I was familiar with it. So anyway, that's that. Um, oh, single for 6 years. So it's been a while. Okay, well, 6 years is long enough to be looking backwards, man. You know, just don't do it. If you really wanted to get better, really, really wanted to get better, and if you had the courage to do this, and I don't know that you do, because I don't know if anybody has the courage to do it, really, in the state you seem to be in now. But if you really want to get better, you should take every single thing in your house that ever belonged to her or that ever reminds you of her, and put it in a big bag and throw it away. If you really, 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 if you decide you want to get better, I'd go and find any pictures that you have, and I would just throw them away, or at the very least, ship them to a P.O. box in Alaska or something so that you can see them later. But I would get them out of the house right now. Just get rid of them. And buddy, I feel for you. But if you're not willing to do that, then you're going to be miserable until you are. And and then and when you decide you don't want to be miserable, then there are a bunch of tools you can use, and I'm happy to talk to you about it, and happy to recommend things on it, and happy to help in any way I can. I owe a lot of people for a lot of help. But ultimately, when you get right down to it, um, uh, when you get right down to it, um, you're going to have to make a decision, uh, and no one can help you with that. You're on your own with that one. But of all the advice I've given you, I think by far the best advice I've given you is go for a walk with your dog right now and ask your dog if you think you should be miserable, whether you deserve to be miserable for the rest of your life. If your dog says yes, then maybe the dog's right. I don't know. So anyway, that's that. All right. I think I'm going to end it on that, actually. I'd like to go home and enjoy, my the waning shadows of my final sunset years. I'm 20 years older than you. And my life's just getting started. So, you know, perspective is perspective, man. And you never know when lightning's going to strike. And sometimes there it is. Anyway, that's that. So, oh, sorry. Yes, G.K. Masterson asked me to pass a message on. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. We're all waiting for the message to come after the delay. Yes, we're out of sync now. Mr. Masterson has a message he'd like me to pass on to my wife. Hey, Mr. Subtle, how are you? I'm sure I'll be talking to you later today or tomorrow or something. Hope you're doing well. Christos Voskresi? Hang on. Vaistia Novoskres. I butchered that pretty badly. Anyway, there you go. So anyway, she said, "Thank you very much." Apparently means Happy Easter, and she responded in perfect Russian, and I'm amazed that she understood what I said because I butchered it so badly on the way out, and I'd be astonished if you understood what the reply was because I butchered it on the way back. Anyway, that'll do it. I'm done. I'm a going home. At least he's wearing pants. Well, that was just lucky coincidence today, to be honest with you. It's only because I got here so late that I had the pants on. Anyway, that'll do it. For those of you Aurora Republic people, I will see you out there shortly. Christ is risen. Thank you. That's it. That's it. Well done. Up, I hear laughter in the background. This show is made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com, who I'm perpetually grateful to. Day doesn't go by when I don't thank them for the wonderful life I'm leading and the work we do and spreading the work to other people. And it's just really wonderful and really, really appreciate it. Hang in there, man. Hang in there. It'll get better. Just take my word for it. Okay. So that'll do it. Thanks very much for joining us. I'm going to take a moment to scroll down to the appropriate graphic, and I suspect we will be doing Chronosphere Lounge tomorrow night. That's certainly my hope. Until then, I will see you later. Everybody take care out there. You especially there, Leonardo. And